The babies are asleep, and
Listen to my voice as I
Apparently now we're a smooth jazz podcast.
got choo choo all aboard the coal train.
Oh God.
Gonna take us into the top o'clock on the Quiet Storm.
No.
borderline like Nicolas Cage there for a bit.
It wasn't so much. Someone wasn't so much sexy as it was slightly terrifying 90s Nicolas Cage. What do you want from me? I'm one man. The adult beverages are poured, the kids are asleep. Welcome to New Dad Gaming, a show about fatherhood, gaming, and new fathers figuring out their gaming lives. My name is Trevor, and I have a 1.5-year-old.
My name's Gavin. I have a 1.5-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I have a 3.5 and a 6-year-old.
And in this version of the episode, Trevor returned to No Man's Sky, Gavin survived the plague, and Jeff saw a movie.
That sums up our life pretty quickly, right? Like
Actually,
that's
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So just quickly off the top, obviously to catch it up on the week. So Jeff, like it was a full family affair with the movie.
Well, it was just me and the boys. So and a friend and his son as well. So Lego Batman was an awesome film for the kids and the parents. Really funny movie. A lot of good references, even to older Batman movies. So it was good to see the Easter eggs, and Will Arnett is Batman. So it's a good time. Highly recommend.
I'm glad to see they pulled it off because that really could have just been a cash-in. Because that character
for
was
sure. Yeah.
Lego movie. That character was of course funny, but it's a one bit. So it's great to see it turn around like this.
Yeah. No, you should definitely go see it. I don't want to give any spoilers away, so it's good going in fresh.
The Joker do it? The Joker did it, didn't he?
Yeah, it's always the Joker, isn't it?
Gavin, you're alive. You did it.
Yep, managed to. Baby got a little sick earlier in the week, and then proceeded to get the rest of the family sick. So it went from baby to mama to dada, and now I'm doing fine. Wife's pretty well bounced back. Baby was fine, really fast, like 12 hours. She was good. Us adults in our, slower to heal physical forms are, yeah.
It feels really unfair that patient zero seems to suffer the least of the effects compared to everybody else.
And it requires the same amount of care and maintenance. So it's like when you're sort of running on fumes and you're like, oh God, I just gotta stay standing. And then baby is like, I want to run, climb on the couch. And you're like, just read a book or something. You can't yet because you don't want to, so you just want to run. So,
yeah, it's certainly the short end of the stick for the parents, because when you need to be picked up and carried someplace, baby's not going to do it.
No, yeah. I ask strangers on the street, they just look at me funny. But it went pretty good. Luckily, it was staggered enough. Like my wife got sick, and then when she was just starting to get she was pretty much on the mend. And then I got it. It's just hit me like a cannonball. And then
isn't that funny though? It's like when they get sick, you're like, oh, you got a little cold, knock you off your little feet, and then you get sick with the same virus. You're like, oh my God, how can this be?
How did you not die, baby?
How did you take this? And if it's really the same virus that got her, it's like she got sick 2 times.
Yeah.
She was fine. And then I was just like, oh, I gotta sleep all day. I just gotta sleep. But yeah, no, we're doing well now. So, but yeah, we survived the plague.
That's the
yeah, one of them was all over my wife. It was pretty. It was impressive. Actually, it was really impressive. I just sort of stood there with my nose.
Was that her in the background saying, "No, we did not survive"? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Trauma,
don't downplay it. It was horrible.
She was holding our daughter on the second barf, and it was just like a steady flow, and
Exorcist style.
Very, very much, and it was like, oh, oh, you got barfed on. Oh, oh, wow, you were getting barfed on. Okay, oh my God. Like it just went, it was like a 3-stager. And by like the 3rd stage, it was like dripping out from underneath her pajamas. And it's just like, oh, okay, I'll get the shower ready.
Now
Yeah,
I'm gonna puke. Oh my god.
yeah. But it was just like, I literally stood there. I was so shocked by it. I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do? Because like normally I'm very like, okay, I got this, it's fine. But it was so just like, I was shell shocked, and it was just like, I've never seen that much come out of a human that size. And yeah, so I grabbed the baby.
Yeah, the math isn't. I'm
Yeah,
writing this down. The math doesn't work. I don't
check
understand.
out.
Like
Doesn't check out. So yeah,
too much volume. I swear.
that was a sight to behold. I'll say that much. It was. I can only imagine what it would have been like to be on the receiving end of it. That looks like it must have been a little bit nuts. Because yeah, it's like, what do you do? It's like you can't drop her. Like you don't know where to point her. It's just
Just drop the
Get
picture.
out the hose. Just
you know, just like oh, but yeah. So yeah, lots of vomit. A lot of vomit. So,
Speaking of vomit, I was playing No Man's Sky recently, and the
oh, good, nice transition.
which is bad to say because actually I still really enjoy it, and I'll say the that I've it again is just such a even recently I'd picked up reading at a habit of reading at night to try to like no screens, no nothing, just try to like read to calm yourself so you can get deeper sleep. And No Man's Sky is so much more effective. Like I sleep so well after playing that game. I can't describe it. Like this is the first time I'd done it, and I've returned now, and just the sleeps afterward are beautiful. I don't know if that's box art titling you'd want to put. Like I sleep beautifully after playing this, but
Puts you to sleep. I
something so
don't know.
meditative.
I don't know.
it's like the
The,
NyQuil
Yeah.
but it you know, in posing the new dads here having a conversation, it kind of brought up the topic of open world games. I mean, No Man's Sky being the quintessential version of an open world game where it's very much just here's space, you do you. But amongst this, we have that GTA 5 in many respects after you beat the storyline, Minecraft. Geez, even Mad Max, what both of you played, I think was largely open world.
Yeah.
And you compare that to, you know, the Uncharted, like all the Uncharted series, like really razor focused, great experiences like that. And here we are as dads. Yeah, recently, what's been your as a father? What is your experience with open world games been recently? Maybe Jeff, I'll throw it to you first.
Well, I have experienced The Witcher, right? And that's definitely open world. And that
Never
took me
ending
what?
world for you.
Yeah, 10 months to complete. So, you got to be careful at what you kind of mix and match. I think you can only have so much open world in your life. Otherwise, you get sidetracked and then you don't go back to that game. And with parenting and fatherhood being involved, you can't necessarily game every night and get back into the story. So even putting it aside and jumping back into an open world, you would have no idea what your next step would be or what your next objective is. Whereas linear, I kind of prefer as the better end of games. I think you could jump back into a level or something and kind of understand where you are in the story. It's more like a chapter in a book or a really tight focused book, where open world is just it's fun to play around in. It's like a nice little sandbox, but in terms of like gaming experience, I guess there's ones that can do really well. Like I love The Witcher. It's just it took me forever to get it done. But I also love The Last of Us, which was a definitely like linear as you can get, but the story, the character development, all that stuff just was amazing in terms of the presentation and the quality of it. So I think you do have to mix and match, but open world is definitely a dangerous game to play with being a father, just because you could drop it and then just never pick it up, never get back into it. No Man's Sky is probably a little bit easier because it's more of a like an experience type game. where you can go around and kind of make your own way. But with
nothing you do
Witcher,
matters. So
yeah,
much like a real universe. But you know, take that, like extending that thought you just said though, like take that against your current experiences with Stardew Valley though,
which
because it really is open world, is it not?
I
I
don't
mean,
know if it's
it's
open
like, there's not a
world.
lot to it, but like open ended.
Yeah,
Maybe that's a better way to put it.
yeah, maybe open ended because it's like a contained sandbox. So I guess maybe part of it is like how big is the open world we're talking about? Because Witcher was insane. Like it was huge and you could, walk from one end to the other. It would probably take you an hour in game to do that. Whereas Stardew Valley is kind of very like it's almost like 10 screens. Almost I would equate it to like Legend of Zelda, the old one on the SNES. So it's kind of those screens where you have something to do in them, but there's no overworld map or anything. You're just in a contained space, and you kind of play along as you will. And there really is no, I guess, end game objective. There kind of is, but that one's a hard one. I put that one kind of in a gray area because it's a great sandbox, but it's not huge. It's not overwhelming. Where if I went into Mad Max or something, it's just um, open world icons everywhere and side quests and everything that's loses your main focus of, I guess, the end goal. And what I get turned around on is that I should do these side quests to power up my character so I can do the storyline ones. I never feel that I'm powered enough to do just the plot line. So I think that's part of um, where I can falter in terms of gaming. I always think that I have to go around and do everything so I'm the best I can be to defeat the story, right? So, or I'm missing an item or something. I complete the story, I didn't get the best ending or something like that. So that's where I can see where you kind of go off in your own little way and don't complete it.
Yeah. So I mean, Gavin, like with your trying to think about how many open world experiences you've discussed. Of course, you went through Mad Max. Like, what's been some of your takes within this first year and a half of being a father with open world games?
I think they're solid. Like I like Shadow of Mordor. Like that was really solid playthrough. I think it really comes down to the gameplay design and the design of the objectives. Um, so like having it set up so that there is a clear focus on where you need to go next and what you need to do next. But as Jeff said, like there's always that lure of the side objectives, so that way you can get more XP and then apply that XP to upgrade your character skills and all that. Yeah, sometimes I can find the open world can be a bit of a drawback, especially too in some instances where like there's not a lot of fast travel. I used to
Mm.
be somebody who did not like fast travel, um, but now I'm like I like fast travel. Fast travel is just fine because I don't like having to commute to my objective. Like I don't have to commute to the mission to start the mission when I just see how much time I have to play ticking down. And it's like I don't want to spend that like driving across like some Mediterranean countryside. It's like that's great and stuff. I don't have time for a drive. I want to just get right to the meat and potatoes here. Um, so that's yeah. There's certain instances where I really do enjoy open world nature, or even like open objective nature is kind of a similar one too, where it's like you're playing a game and there are secondary objectives and stuff like that, which is similar to open world, like Deus Ex, for example. Like there's a whole bunch of side missions. It's not really open world, like it's open world-esque, but it's like two main contained maps that aren't that huge, but they're chock full of stuff.
Mm.
I think that's the other factor too with open world games is quantity over quality. Is sometimes you get games like Just Cause, which I absolutely love, but even in Just Cause 2, which is one of my favorite games of all time, that map was way too big. Um, but like, so it's figuring out where like the map was so big that sometimes you just like you didn't have anything to do, or to get from one spot to another was really difficult. They did have a good fast travel system in place, which was good. But yeah, just sometimes you're like, oh, I made it to this city, but there's really not much to do here. It's just a city. It's just different than the mountains. Um, so yeah, it's weird. But when you find other games where it's a little bit smaller and the map is has a little bit more to it, like the newest Fallout was a little bit more chock a block with stuff to do, but then it it fell into the other trapping of like, you know, a cat chasing a laser pointer. Like you just didn't know what you wanted to do next. You're just distracted by like, what's over there? What's over there? What's over there?
Yeah.
And you forget the fact that you need to find your kid. Like you lose your motivation. And it's like, yeah, I find that factor a little difficult to when it, especially too when it affects the narrative. Like when a side quest makes the motivations of your character, it affects that narrative. Um, yeah, that can be really difficult. But when you see things like The Last of Us or Uncharted or even Doom, like they're fantastic games that are that really hone in on the forward momentum of that character. They have a goal and they're going to achieve that goal. And you are going to do what you need to do with the controller to make that happen. I think sometimes with those games, you feel a little bit more catharsis in a shorter amount of time. And you feel like you have a little bit more, you feel better relationship with the character because of that. Like you're not leading them astray and then feeling guilty about it. Like there's none of this like, oh, sorry, Nathan Drake. I know you wanted to find that thing, but
Yeah.
I really wanted to collect cabbages for this woman in the village, and that just took priority.
Yeah.
Or build chairs, at least for old ladies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my child lost in the wasteland. They can wait. This meth addict needs a new chair.
Yeah, I think with some of those examples, I think even as much as I've been enjoying and still enjoy playing No Man's Sky, I think it feels like it's a game for single people, young single people, or people who don't have commitments, because it's just any time you put into it is just an absolute drop in an ocean. There is no end game. There's no point. And especially when you're just doing that 1 hour, like you guys can certainly relate with Skyrim. I mean, it's just an hour could be spent taking a wrong turn over top of a mountain. So like when you have that precious hour of dad time to possibly play this game, it's like, well, I took a wrong turn and I climbed that mountain. Guess my time's over for the night, as opposed to making any type of progress. And I've been struggling recently as far as like it's, again, like for me, it almost ends up being meditative because it's just a very calming, like kind of beautiful world to be in. And just that enjoyment of it, just like, yeah, I'm happy to be here. This is like this activity is just to be here and enjoy this. And that's fighting my natural gamer sense of like, beat it, beat the game. So, because, you can't, and theoretically there's some things you can do, but ultimately that's it. So like, yeah, those two fighting sides. I mean, I think ultimately I found the same with Elite Dangerous. Funny enough, another like space sim where it's just like you're not there's nothing here, or even with Drive Club, which I was enjoying the most in the VR set. You could certainly get better cars, but those cars just drive slightly differently. You're going to just try to drive faster. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that you can't win. There's nothing. There's no like you save the princess or you save the prince. Game's over. Like,
yeah,
congrats. And that's what was so for me, having coming from all of those sims, or even like Street Fighter and just all these things that had no particular end, to be playing through Uncharted 4 was such a contrast. It was crazy because like every night I'm making, there's this cool story and I'm making progress. I'm proceeding. The book is getting smaller. Like I'm about to finish it, Still haven't finished it, by the way. I gotta yeah, I know. Gotta wrap that up. Maybe
still finishing it too. Don't worry, Trevor.
Nice. New dad. Cheers. So I don't know. Have you guys had that, like, have you had that fight between like, I enjoy this sandbox and I'm just going to play in the sandbox for an hour, and have you fought with yourself around trying to accomplish something in your very sparse dad gaming time?
I think it's more desire, because like my desire to do that sort of, like, I used to play a lot of Grand Theft Auto just to see if I could jump a four-wheeler onto a moving train. Yes, I can. But it took a lot of time.
Video where it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I had that share button working back then. So yeah, it's this factor of just I liked messing around with that sandbox and playing with it and seeing what I could do, and even with like Just Cause, like like, ooh, I wonder if I can blow up this bridge and then fly underneath it with my wingsuit as it's crumbling and not die. I can't. But those little experiments, I think open world games have that. It's, even in Skyrim, it's like, I wonder if I can try to make, these giants over here get in a fight with that dragon over there. Like, there's little kind of things you can do in those games where you're sort of taking the game world and playing with it and playing. Like, I think that's sort of the definition of the sandbox game, is at least to me, is that here is this area that you can play in and just muck around and do what you want and make your own experience. But that said, I think now I'm starting to. I like the better bang for my buck when it comes to more focused narrative games. Like, this is a designed experience. A lot of thought went into it most of the time, and it's like, okay, let's do this thing and let's move forward with it. And yeah, it's like when you're playing something like Uncharted or or Doom, for example. Like, yeah, it's those games where you feel like you've made quality use of what little you time you had. It'd be like sitting down. It's like, oh, do I just sit down and read a chapter of this really nice novel, or do I read The Inquirer? Both are translating words. But yeah, it's like, do you read like a newspaper article about Bill Clinton's love affair with aliens in the 90s, or do you read like an actual book? And I think that's sort of the difference. It's not like one's bad. Actually, that's really a bad comparison. It's more just the fact of, do you want something that's really going to stick with you, or do you just want to have some fun? And there's nothing wrong with just having some fun, but sometimes with the open world games, if you want to have a good experience, you have to trudge through a lot of distance and a lot of side quests to get to that good experience. Because I know with The Witcher, with Skyrim, there are some quality scripted moments like you would have in an Uncharted or a Doom, but they're buried in the sandbox and you got to dig them up. And the time it takes to dig them up sometimes is a bit of a deterrent.
Yeah, I could relate. I could see both sides to either game mode. I think open world is great when you kind of walk away with your own experiences and you can talk to a friend that has the same game and they have a completely different story. Like relating to Skyrim, just meeting somebody on like the tallest mountain that I decided to scale, and he gave me this sword that, my other friend is like, what are you talking about? I beat it and I've never experienced that. So that aspect is kind of cool, where if you go through like a linear story, it's like, well, I'm on chapter 9 and this happens. So
the water cooler talk changes.
Yeah.
It's like,
so,
oh, did you get to that part yet? Yeah, man, I did. It was so great.
Yeah.
Or like with an open world game, it's more like, oh, you'll never believe what happened in Grand Theft Auto last night. I was driving a bike on top of a truck and I flew through a donut.
I guess that really does change it too, is like the communal aspect of it. And now that the current world that we're in with No Man's Sky has this incredible subreddit that actually turned into one of the most toxic places I've ever seen in my life, and then managed to turn back into incredibly positive after a bunch of updates. But same thing with GTA and with Twitch and YouTube and all these things happening. It's not just, it is you with a ton of other people all in this space where anything's possible, and you're just showing each other like, check this out, like this incredible stunt. Like some of the GTA 5 montages are just like bananas. It's like, how on earth how did you pull this? Like, how are you're on the side of a freeway and you're jumping off into like a plane that's going underneath. Now it's a sub. It just keeps going. Which I guess almost prompts it to go back in. Yeah, but I suppose it might be like with a Minecraft or with a No Man's Sky I think it ends up being a harder argument than, say, a Fallout or Skyrim. Because at least those, when you're done, you can beat it. You can just and I'm done now. Like Fallout 4 finishes. Like there's an ending to it. Like, check, I'm out of here. This is great. I think one of the only redeeming things could be, I don't know if you guys have ever gotten into like a procedurally generated dungeon crawler or anything else that just like is different every single time. Because I will say one of the saving graces with No Man's Sky is they introduced a survival mode. So in many ways, this is just challenging you inside of the sandbox. Like, okay, how long can you live before this game inevitably kills you? Like, can you even get to a starship before like you die because of a plant? So have you guys ever dipped in that direction as far as like procedurally generated? Because it feels like it might be a bit more giving to a father with limited time.
Yeah, like I've played a few sort of roguelike,
Mhm.
like dungeon crawler ones, and like I find them enjoyable, but then there's certain times where I just feel like I get dealt a really bad hand. And it's like, I was so close, and then that stupid slug hit me in the face with a thorn, and now I gotta start all over again. And then now that I'm starting, the random items I got are really bad.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I had started with that loadout from the first one. So yeah, there's moments like that, but they are fun. I think they're good little. They're kind of the equivalent of, I think, just messing around in a sandbox, but there's a little bit more objectives to it and a little bit more satisfaction if you complete them or if you progress a little bit further. It's like with Spelunky and stuff, like sometimes you get a
Mhm.
little bit further than you did last time. But with those games too, because it's sort of random, it's a lot of luck of the draw sometimes where what the level layout looks like and all this can sometimes just work in your favor and sometimes not. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've dealt in like Minecraft briefly with my son, and just having a procedurally generated world where he can build whatever he wants to build is great for his creativity. But again, yeah, it's kind of like roll the dice on where you start, what you get, and then what he can do with that world. So I don't like that aspects for myself, but for him, it's great because he can kind of flex his creative muscles and adapt to that situation. But if it was for me, I would just do a quick reset until I got something that I needed to at least work with and go over. But I don't know. So I guess it's kind of what you're feeling at the moment, and kind of continue it along with another game. I don't think you could solely dive into something like that. I've seen other people do it for years and years and years, but I don't think I have that commitment with the short gaming time I have. I want to experience other things in my backlog before they get too old to care
I think
about or
that's a factor
run.
too, is like you look at these open world games and these roguelikes and stuff, and they're intriguing, but they do take up a lot of time.
Yeah.
And when you have like a backlog of games that you want to get through, or you see other ones coming along that look also really interesting, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to try that too. So it's sort of like, do I bother getting like was it Infamous Second Son?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's on sale right now.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, it looks really nice. I've always wanted to check it out. But it's a big open world, and I'm like, I don't want to run around the city looking for objectives. I'm literally doing that right now in my other game. And it's like,
That one's a good example though, because
yeah,
I played that one to death, and that one's a really tight open world, if that makes sense. Like
okay, it's not too
it's not
sprawled out.
crazy. Yeah, and you
Okay,
have a bunch of superpowers that can not fast travel you, but you can work your way around the city and get these objectives done rather quickly. So
okay,
it's a good tight experience where, yeah, if it was like a Witcher world big, totally would not recommend that just because of the massive nature of it. But yeah, they
okay,
block it off kind of nicely
okay.
on that
Good
one.
to know.
And
Yeah,
that's
actually,
probably part of it too, is there's open world and there's almost like closed open where like
Yeah,
Infamous, there's like, there's a bridge broken or something, so you can't access that part of the open world. So it
mhm.
kind of closes you off a little bit and then opens.
classic bridge break.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I got superpowers. Like, what do I?
Be a shame if I could fly or something.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, swim, rent a boat.
That was Grand
Yeah,
Theft
never.
Auto again too, right? Bridge break. What do you mean I can't
Yeah,
get over the bridge?
it's not even broken. I think they just like shut it down for a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then you spend
I
an
think
hour trying to break it.
Saints Row, like, didn't Saints Row make fun of that in one of their games?
Oh, I bet
Probably,
I
yeah.
hope they did. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, then the I guess like the last place I would take it would be the one of the games that's kind of on my radar for quite a while has been Steep. So that's the big open
Oh
world
yeah,
snowboarding one.
Mm-hmm.
And sports games in this particular conversation kind of takes up an interesting place because in many ways it's almost a little bit like a Street Fighter as far as like there's no end to it. Like I'm especially with Steep. Well, let's say like a hockey game or a basketball game. I guess you could win a championship.
Yeah.
But then, like, what you put it away on the shelf, it's more likely every now and then you're going to pick it up and play a game of it, and then it's just this advance. The whole purpose of you is to get slightly better at this thing, which has no impetus on your life whatsoever. So you're just improving your skills in it, and yet I've always found like that to be very rewarding in sports games, like the driving game, like getting the better lap, the hockey game, killing your opponent 9-0, basketball and Steep. Or any like snowboarding game, of course, I think has a bit of the meditative element because it's just you drifting down a mountain, slamming into the side. But okay, we keep going.
No, that's a good example too, right? Because you have to kind of like find your line to get the best jump and stuff. Where if you compared it like SSX, which was like a closed snowboarding, you got like 9 tracks. You know those like the back of your hand, right? Where Steep, you kind of start new and you can experience it.
Improvise it. I think that's the same with like other open world games too. With Mad Max, it was like as big as the world was, it was really enjoyable to rip around it in the car. So traveling from point A to point B was an enjoyable experience because of how they, and like as you said with Infamous, like they give you all those powers to be able to get around. So if you can make that experience enjoyable, like yeah, why not go off a sand dune and like go flying off into the sunset, or like carve through a nice big snowbank. There's these aspects of enjoying the geography of that map. But if it's just something as simple as like just drive down the road and watch for pedestrians, it's like I do that every day. Why do
I want life.
It's my Sunday driving, man. And I think again, like, geez, we keep driving back to Skyrim, but I just I don't often recall ever in that game lamenting a long walk because every single time it was just so interesting. Like something happened.
It was beautiful. It was always beautiful, and the music was swelling and wonderful, and it's just like, it's like I just want to live. It's like the whole.
There's
world.
a bandit. There's a bandit cave. There was a like every now and then like they'd throw in some random stuff. Like every now and then like the 3 guards would be taking a high elf somewhere, and you get to choose like, okay, am I gonna just let this pass? Am I gonna try to like kill a bunch of guards?
Yeah.
Sorry, sorry, Gavin, you were saying about the world.
The game's world was literally a nice warm blanket. Like you just felt nice in it.
You did. It's true. And you'd want to stay there for a long time, hours and hours and hours.
Hours and hours and hours. I think that was the thing. If an open world is very inviting, then yeah, like I think maybe that's also the difference too. Why I feel more of a draw to Skyrim than to Fallout 4 again is because there was something about Skyrim's world that was very. Even though I'm more about like sci-fi and post-apocalyptic stuff, like that's sort of more my leanings when it comes to fantasy stuff. But yeah, there's just something with Skyrim that was just
epic.
Perfect storm of audio and visuals, like hearing that sweeping music as you're coming over top of this ridge and looking over and like the fog and the lowlands, and it's just like it's just so nice.
Yeah.
So
man,
now I gotta play Skyrim.
Yeah, now I was gonna log off here and go play Skyrim. You know what? One last detour. You know what big open world I miss? The Fable 2. I was
never played.
Man, that goes down as one of my favorite games of all time. It's got to be the most charming world I've ever been in. Like it was just so nice. It's relatively happy. It's very much like a Disney version of a open world.
Yeah,
like you can like do emotes and like you can make people laugh and like joke around. You can totally customize what your dude looks like, and oh man, that world was just such a treat to like jump around in. I think not even quite as exciting as Skyrim, but man, I always think back on Fable. Kind of just keep hoping they'll announce Fable 4, but not likely. I gotta doubt it.
You make it up in your mind, yeah.
Still, as much as I think it was a sparse map, I still really like the map in Just Cause 2. Just because you could go from like a snowy area to like desert and everything in between. and like your character would get covered in sand, and then like within a half hour you had them covered in snow.
Yeah.
It was just something kind of interesting about that, like the fact that this little continent that they made had multiple ecosystems on it. I thought that was really cool. And then flying around it, it was just really pretty, and like just sort of barn burning or really low to the ground, and it was I always found that was a for me a good like go-to peaceful sort of zen open world thing. I know the game is supposed to be like a cartoon action movie, but I would really just get in an airplane and just fly around this beautiful island. And that was by the end of it, after I beat the game, it turned into a flight sim for me. But a flight sim that I could jump out and watch the plane explode.
Yeah, Jeff, Jeff, what would be your? I think accidentally me and Gavin have revealed some of our favorite open worlds. Did you have
an open world? Is definitely Witcher 3. There's no question. No question. I swear. That grabbed a hold of me. But it's interesting that some of those games flip, right? So Witcher 1 and 2 went from linear to open world. So I think Metal Gear is doing the same thing. I want to experience that one. It's very linear all the way up to 4, and then 5 went total open world. So it's kind of neat that way too when they make that conscious decision. But if I would have had to pick an open world, it would have to be Witcher 3. It is very depressing, but it's like a good depressing. Like it shows you the human nature of, like if you do something in that world, it does affect it, and people talk about you differently, and towns burn down because of you, and other characters die because of you, and it's a good, I don't know, it's a good reality to get into.
Could one not
so loyal to that game? It makes me wonder whether the publishers have like photos of Jeff doing something compromising.
If Cyberpunk, if I can get a free copy of that game when it comes out in 5 years, I'll review it.
Yeah, in many ways though, is Witcher 3 not just a more adult version of Fable 2? For being honest,
probably.
Very, very, very more. Yeah.
That's Mickey Mouse, I guess.
It's like Disney Channel versus FX. Well, so I think from the sounds of it, all three of us need to go find our copies of Skyrim.
I think so. Yeah.
So it seems like a decent place to put in a button in it. Everybody, thank you once again for listening. This has been New Dad Gaming. This is a podcast that we do weekly. You can find us on the iTunes Store, Google Play Store, and anywhere else you do find podcasts. If you'd like to reach out to us with a show idea or a question, you can find us at our website, newdadgaming.com, as well as on our Facebook page and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you, and would love even further for you to pass it along to a new dad who happens to like gaming.
And Skyrim.
And Skyrim, yeah. Those who don't like Skyrim need not apply. Man, what's the name of the shout? I was gonna try to weave that into a joke, and I can't even do it.
Fosroda.
Yeah.
Fosroda? Okay. Well, the moment has passed.
That's it.
Fosroda, until next week. My name is Trevor, and I have a 1.5-year-old.
My name's Gavin, and I have a 1.5-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I have a 3.5 and a 6-year-old.
All right, gents, it's a big open world out there. Let's get off this podcast.
Always.
Bye, gents.
See ya.
You owe me a bottle of Advil.